Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Leland Baptist, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. Now, today we're going to talk about a few things, but primarily we're going to talk about running comps. So, I want to make sure that first you understand that no matter who you are, comps, which are comparables, that is how we compare the value between one property or another. Comps oftentimes are more of a art than an actual science. It's an art, not an actual science. As a matter of fact, if you were to reach out to 12 different licensed realtors or 12 different licensed real estate agents, and you would request comps on the exact same property, they are going to give you different opinions and perspectives on the value of a particular property. You will have some realtors that will go within a block of walking distance from that property. You then will have other realtors that will actually go within a quarter of a mile radius. You will have some that will begin to look at the property based on whether it has a garage or based on the square footage, price per square footage, or even when some people are looking particularly just at, let's say, the condition of the property. So with that being said, for beginners who are starting to wholesale real estate, don't try to get your comps or your values perfect. Understand that you have to get your comps primarily so that you can get an initial value of what that property could be worth in a pristine or better use of the property. With coaching multiple beginners starting to wholesale real estate, is that many beginners make the excuse that they can't make offers because they weren't sure whether they had the right comp value. And ultimately, what that boils down to is fear. Fear is like a fire, and fear will burn as long as you continue to put wood into the flames. Wood oftentimes can be used as our excuses. So a lot of times what beginners will do is they will try to find any valuable excuse and use that as a roadblock when ultimately it's nothing more than a speed bump or just a small bump in the road. With that being said, I'm going to show you as a beginner, as someone who's starting off in real estate, how regardless of how much money you have, as long as you have access to the internet, a phone, or a computer, how you can actually find your comps to get your initial estimate value of a property in less than 10 minutes. In some cases, you may be able to do this in literally less than 5 minutes. So with that being said, let's hop on my computer and I'm going to show you exactly what to do, how to do it, how to get your comp value so that you can go ahead and start making the offers that you need to be successful when it comes to wholesaling real estate. Now, with that being said, I must make sure that you understand that when it comes to wholesaling real estate, this is not meant to be a complex process, okay? It's only complex if you want it to be complex. But wholesaling real estate in actuality is really simple. The very first thing that we start off doing, as always, is we need to have a buyer and have an idea of what he or she or they want to purchase. We then go start looking, basically our filters on what he or she or they want. Once we find out prospectives of what he or she wants to buy, we then will begin to make offers to those prospective owners to see if that owner wants to be a seller. In order for us to make offers, we have to have an idea of what the comp value is in that particular marketplace. Once we get someone to agree to our value, we get them under contract, and then we allow our investors or our inspectors, property managers, etc., to begin to look or inspect the property to see if it's a deal that they want to pull the trigger on. Once they pull the trigger, you're good to go. At that point, we're going to go ahead and have our buyer sign a purchase agreement as well. We now have 2 purchase agreements, one with the seller and one with the buyer. And at that point, we're going to send our documentation to the title company. As the title company begins to run title, A day before closing, we will then go ahead and send what's called an assignment agreement to our prospective buyer, which is our third sheet of paper, depending on the relationship that we have with that prospective investor. With that being said, that is really the wholesale process. So, going back to comps, let me show you how to find those comps. And now that you understand just how important it is to find the comp value so that you can make your multiple offer. All right, so what we're going to do real quick is basically we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to get some comps. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to Zillow.com. And again, you can do this on your computer. You can also do this on really just anything else, computer or your website. So I'm going to select, let's go to Denver, Colorado. All right. And I am personally right now just going to look for a house just because that would be easier. And a lot of times, most buyers, investors are looking for houses. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'll just click a random property that is a house. Let's say this one. Okay. So here we are. We have a house. And if I wanted to make an offer to the seller, let's say, whatever, if I want to make an offer to a seller, I first have to find out what the comped value is. Now, what's pretty interesting about this is that Zillow gives you what's called a Zestimate. And as of late, Zillow's Zestimate has gotten a lot better than what it first was when they first started opening the Zestimate. So Zillow's saying, hey, the value of this property is $444,889. Cool. Now, if I wanted to actually get some real comparables to see where that value is coming from, I can scroll down on the computer, as I am doing right here, and look for this window pane. I could also scroll down on my phone and look for the same window pane, okay? As I do that, I can zoom in or out, and I'm looking for yellow dots of other properties that have sold. Now, what's important to understand is that there primarily are three characteristics that I want to compare. I want to compare, number one, the square footage, number two, the bed and bath, number three, whether or not it has like a garage or the same type of amenities. So, sometimes investors don't like properties that have pools, obviously because of death, but also it can be very expensive to fill those in just for a backyard. So I can zoom in or out on this window pane to see other things that have sold. What's cool is within this neighborhood, within walking distance of the subject house here on Altura Street, I can see other properties that have sold. Now, I don't know for sure if these properties are the same square footage as the subject property, 1380. I don't know if it's the same bed or bath. But what I can do is click on this property that's obviously across the street, and I can look and see if it's the same bed and bath. Well, what do you know? This one it's a 3-bedroom. It's also 2 bath. It is also 1380 square feet. And it sold not too long ago. So I could actually write this comp down. So what I could do is, let's say I go to a notepad online. And again, let's use one of the free notepads that are here. All right. So for my comps, just very, very quickly, there's a property here. And here's the link. And the value. The value that this bad boy sold at was $360. Okay, so I got one comp. Typically for comps, what I like to do is to at least get 2 to 3. At the max, I might use 6. But at the minimum, I want to get 2 or 3. Okay, so cool. We have a property right there. What's also great is whenever you click on a property that has already sold, Zillow then all of a sudden wants to show you what they consider to be comparable homes, i.e., right here. And they'll give you a list of up to 6 properties within that same area that have sold, and they will just basically just give you the values. You want to keep in mind that whenever Zillow or some of the other online resources, whenever they auto generate the comps, for some reason, they don't always give you the same exact square feet, which you want to be mindful of. So, for example, right here is a property that sold within the same area, actually down the street, but this property sold for $180,000. It also shows on here that it's only 936 square feet. Now, although that's not like a huge difference, I do want to let you know that I myself would not use that as a comp. I would actually use something that's a lot closer in square feet. It gets a plus when it comes to the bid and bath, but as far as the square footage, not so much. Okay. The next property right here that it gives, number one, it's a little further out, but still in the same neighborhood. This sold for $278,000 and its square footage is 1250. Now, granted, this is 100 or so square feet less than our subject property, but I would still actually use this comp if I wanted to negotiate and trying to explain why I'm getting a lower value than before. Now, here's something to keep in mind. I'm looking at this property. Zillow still has the pictures up, which is great for us. And I would say that the condition is good. It's a very good condition, a well-conditioned property. So in my notes, I'll just put well or good condition. Now, let's go back to our subject property. Our subject property is in the same street, but it's a little further down. Okay. We're looking at the property here. It has a well condition as well. So well or good condition. And as always, when we scroll down, we can look for our window pane. There we go. And let's try to go for this one that sold for $433. Okay, so here's a property that sold for $433, well conditioned, similar square footage, a little bit less, but it's still a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. That's great. So similar usage. Now, the next thing that I would do with these particular properties is when you exit that initial window pane, that pop up, you then want to zoom in a little bit so you can get to that initial property that you're looking at. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter a little bit better than what Zillow was giving me. Keep in mind that Zillow is pulling this data from public records. Okay. So instead of me looking for the for sales, I want to find things that have sold. Now, next thing that I want to do is I can decide whether, again, it's going to be within the same neighborhood, walking distance, etc. So I'm now going to filter based on what the property is. It's a 3-bedroom, it's a 2-bath. I'm then going to look on here and say, yep, it's a house. I'm then going to look on here and I'm looking for the range for my square feet. So I would go anywhere from about 1250 to possibly 1500. Okay. As you can see here, our filters are changing. And now I think we have a better range. So now we can say within confidence that these are the properties that have sold within walking distance of that same neighborhood. But there's something that we can also do as an additional filter. On Zillow, when you scroll down under more, you can filter based on sold and last. Typically, what I like to do is look for things that have sold within the last 90 days. All right. Things that sold in the last 90 days. Now, so as you can see here, because where the market is changing, there hasn't been anything that sold. Now that nothing has sold, I have 2 options. I can either expand the radius in which I'm searching, or I can go a little bit further back, and I choose to go further back. So instead of 90 days, let's try 6 months. Nothing has sold for 6 months, not within the radius that I'm looking at. Okay, not in that neighborhood. All right, so let's try a year. So a year from today, what has sold? Within this radius, based on our filters, nothing has sold within a year. Again, I then have the option of going further back than a year or possibly to widen the radius of my search. So if I widen the radius of my search, oh wow, I still don't get anything. Okay, so let's go back. So now let's do 24 months. That's 2 years' time. And let's see what we have. So within 2 years, there's only been one other property that has sold within 24 months of today within this radius, walking distance of our subject property. And that property is this one. And that obviously is November of 2021. Okay. So this is an example of how you can get your comps. So again, if I have 2 or 3 of these, then at that point, I'll take the average of that value, then put it into my offer calculator and then make my offer. Okay. Now, let's use something different. Let's use a different website, a different tool. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this exact same property that we have here, and we're going to go to another online free website, which is actually owned by Zillow, and the website is Trulia. Okay, so I'm going to copy this address. I'm going to go to Trulia, and we're literally just going to type in this address. Like, that's it. Boom. Type it in, paste it, and hit search. All right. Now, here's the cool part. On Zillow, we were having to make our own parameters. On Trulia, all we have to do is scroll down, like legit. So you go to any property that you want, and you're going to slowly scroll until you get to something that says comparable sales. So Trulia has already decided to look within the Montebello area. That's what we're in, the suburb. But they decided to go ahead and look within a certain radius based on the square footage and the bed and bath. And within that neighborhood, they're giving us what they believe are the comps for that area. Okay. And right here we have the distance, as you guys can see. So it looks like this is almost a quarter of a mile, 16, almost a quarter, and almost a third of the mile, right, of driving distance. All these properties are single family properties, and these are our sold prices. Okay. We have our sales dates here. Everything that was sold on this auto-generated comp from Trulia, everything here was sold within a year's time. Okay. And then we have our square feet. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind when you're using this tactic from Trulia is the square footage. You want to make sure that it's not a huge outlier. So from time to time, for example, our subject property has square feet of 1,380, right? 1,380 square feet. Now, Trulia, sometimes it may throw in here a comp or property where the square footage is like 800 or 900 square feet. If that happens, don't fret. Just throw that out of your average. Okay. Now, here's the next thing. We have properties that sold as little as 383,000. We have others that sold as much as 506,000. So Trulia is going to already for us is going to take the average of that price. So if you're wondering what that is, you can either calculate that on your own. What you can actually do is go to the actual site, and a lot of times it will just say on the opening page the Trulia value. Okay, like hey, truly value is 450. Now here's what's pretty cool. As a matter of fact, let's just add it up. I'm going to add up all of these numbers for you, and then we're going to divide them all by 7 because it's 7 properties here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so let's quickly do that. Okay, so what we did is we went ahead and added all of our sold prices, right, just based on the ones that Trulia has given us. And then we added them up, and then we divided by 7 because it's 7 properties. Therefore, we get an average. So our average is $448,442. So what that now means is I'm going to take that amount and I'm going to put it into my offer calculator. And then my offer calculator is going to give me 3 different types of offers to go ahead and present to the seller. Now, here's what's interesting about this. Remember, when we looked on Zillow on our own, we did find a comp of a property that sold within a year's time within the same streets as before. Also, keep in mind that we have one property that's closer to this middle school right here that is somewhat of an outlier. In other words, these properties are still within the neighborhood. But if I go to this house over here, I'm having to cross a busy street. And then, again, I mean, and to be fair, technically, yes, it is the same neighborhood. However, I would consider these properties more aligned. You, as the deal maker, you have the ability, you have the right to decide whether or not, what properties you want to include or not include in your comparable analysis. Okay, you have the ability to choose that. So you have that liberty. And again, comps are not going to be perfect. They're only meant to give a range or an estimate on what the value of something is. Your comps are not going to be perfect. Period. Worry less about having your comps perfect, and be more concerned with actually calling that seller back and really having 3 offers to go through your offer cycle with that seller. Okay. So with that being said, just real quick, I showed you 2 ways that you can actually find comps without you having to use the excuse and say that you don't have access to PropStream, or without you claiming that PropStream is too expensive to pay and all the other stuff. Yeah, I just showed you 2 ways that you're able to find comps without using PropStream, without spending any quote unquote money, and all you have to do is have access to either a phone and or a computer that has internet access. Okay. We went to Zillow and we went to Trulia. Both were able to give us data from the county about sold properties. We did all that without the MLS. We did all that without PropStream. We did all that without paying any subscription services for any additional tools. So if you found this beneficial, go ahead, hit a like, hit a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments if there's something additional that you want to have covered, that maybe as a beginner when it comes to wholesaling real estate, creative financing, those kind of things that you're struggling with, and maybe you want myself or maybe someone on the team to make a video and dive deeper into it, let me know. And that's what we'll give you in the future. All right. With that being said, much success today, and do not allow the fear or the excuse of not being able to make comps to stop you from actually going forward and truly making the income that you really want. Talk to you soon.